When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? I wanted to be the host of a series of educational YouTube videos featuring quirky stories from Minnesota's past. But let's say you wanted to be a mail carrier. Who's your role model for that anyway?
Our mailman has a long day.
No thank you. Instead, you'll want to look to the fastest, coolest, dog-sleddingest, most bad mail carrier who ever lived. Minnesota's own John Beargrease. Welcome to Minnesota Historia. I'm Haley, your guide to the legend of John Beargrease. If you've already heard of John Beargrease, it's probably because there's a sporting event named after him.
We call it the premier sled dog race in the lower 48 states.
This is Mike Keyport. He's John Beargrease's great-grandson and a race official for the John Beargrease Sled Dog Marathon. Racers travel 300 miles from a bar in Duluth to a casino in Grand Portage. So, if you're a dog who likes to drink and then gamble, this is the race for you.
It really took off because there was some local mushers here around the Cook County area that did their own sled dogging, and they said, well, we got to call it something. What are we going to call this race?
Hortense, Maud, Dale.
And somebody remembered that John Beargrease delivered mail via sled dog, and it clicked.
John Beargrease was born in 1858. That's the same year Minnesota was born as a state. Twinsies? John was born here, in Beaver Bay, Minnesota. They built a whole sign about it.
And he did live in a wigwam right on Lake Superior and the Beaver River. Later, as development happened, of course, they did get into a house.
Young John grew up hunting and fishing and running with his dogs in the Minnesota wilderness. In his teens, he worked as a sailor on Lake Superior.
Board, set sail, ahoy, hooray.
I found no evidence that he dreamed of growing up to carry letters and catalogs and packages, but he was ideally suited for it. If he wanted to deliver the mail here in the late 1800s, before there were roads or cars or airplanes, you had two options. Neither one of them is great. Option 1, the cold, unforgiving death trap that is Lake Superior. Good luck with the not drowning in a watery grave thing. Option 2, the rocky, roadless, tree-choked terrain of the North Shore. Good luck with the moose, and the bears, and the not getting hopelessly lost. Unless, of course, you're John Beargrease. John Beargrease doesn't get lost.
There was a trail that was used basically by the natives. Some of these trails him and his brother made themselves. When they learned of this federal government mail contract, it was kind of a no-brainer because we're already using these trails. So they'd sign a contract every year with the federal government.
In 1879, at the age of 21, he signed on to deliver the mail once a week to the entire North Shore. In the winter, he usually went by dog sled. The summer was for sailing.
He made a makeshift canoe and actually put a sail on it. Yeah, he not only knew the land, but he knew the lake. They nicknamed him the renowned pilot of Lake Superior.
Despite being famous for dog sledding, John Beargrease actually preferred the lake.
The trail was rough because of the terrain here on the North Shore. It's mountainous, it's hilly, it's up and down. I don't know how many streams and rivers you crossed, but it was much easier to use Lake Superior. When ice would form on Lake Superior, he would skip the trail because it was quicker to go on frozen water, but Lake Superior, being Lake Superior, had shifting ice, which had to have been extremely dangerous.
Of course, John Beargrease wasn't the only mail carrier on the North Shore. His brothers helped, and a man named Louis Plant often covered the route north of Grand Marais. But John Beargrease was the most famous. People loved him.
He not only brought physical mail, but he brought information and news. People in the town would hear them bells coming, and as he got to the post office, the community would all come together.
And he was tireless.
You know, the old saying, the mail must go through, and he would make it happen one way or another.
This episode of Minnesota Historia is brought to you by Beargrease.
That was a fake commercial break, but I do want to talk to you about Beargrease for a moment. Beargrease is a slightly more disgusting term for bear fat, and I am not body shaming these bears. They're supposed to be fat. It's for hibernation, just as nature intended.
Bear hunters melt it down, kind of like you would rendering the fat from a pig.
Now, I don't use bear grease in my daily life, but once upon a time, everyone did. for everything. Cooking, grooming hair, face painting, waterproofing, conditioning hides, lubricating, insect repellent, and as a cure for baldness, because bears are so hairy. No, really, that was their thinking. Speaking of Beargrease, our John Beargrease stopped delivering mail on April 26, 1899.
Early on, there was probably only a couple, 3, 4 communities, and as time went, then there was more post office stops.
More post offices meant more mail, and the trail John Beargrease had expertly navigated for so many years was now a big, boring road. Any rando with a horse and buggy can deliver mail on that. John Beargrease died in 1910 after rescuing another mail carrier from a Lake Superior storm.
This is the picture of John Beargrease at his end of life, and that's the picture my mother doesn't like, but I do, because I think it's a very realistic picture after all them years of work.
And that might be the end of our story if it weren't for the Sled Dog Marathon.
The only other thing is, if you're not aware, that we've had these mailbags for a year. It says Beargrease Station on them, but each and every year, every musher in the marathon is legally sworn in as an official United States mail carrier.
They what?
They carry it from start to finish of the race, actual United States mail.
So mushers, please stand.
So they actually have a United States Postal Service representative come to opening ceremonies, and they all stand there
I state your name.
and legally get sworn in as mail carrier for 3 days, and then they don't get to carry mail anymore. But the veterans, they look forward to it. I think some of the rookies go, what am I doing? You know, I'm doing what? I'm carrying mail? What?
Yeah, that was my exact reaction.
No packages.
Oh.
We'll leave that to John Beargrease, because apparently he could handle it. But
And that's not the only way they honor John Beargrease.
as mushers go out of the chute, we let them go every 2 minutes, keeping them a little distance apart logistically for a safer start. But somebody came up with the idea that John Beargrease should be the first musher out.
It's a great day in the Northland.
We actually have Ken Bueller do our announcing each and every year. They do a countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, and when it gets to 1, John Beargrease is out the chute.
He will be the first one out on the marathon trail. We honor the tradition of his people and the perseverance of his time, and he leaves now. John Beargrease, miigwech! John Beargrease, miigwech!
And most people get it. And, you know, there's a lot of hype at the beginning of the race. But at that time, everybody kind of hushes. What a beautiful way to honor John Beargrease.
I did not know there was going to be a supernatural element to this story. John Beargrease running with his dogs more than 140 years after he started. That rules. Thanks for watching Minnesota Historia, your guide to all things quirky in Minnesota history. You can watch past episodes on our YouTube page, including stories about St. Urho's Day and Duluth's doomed Winter Olympics. In future episodes, we'll be going even further and deeper into the quirky, soft underbelly of this very weird state. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And please become a member of PBS North to support projects just like this.